right, you guys, welcome back to Thrive Beyond Cancer Summit. Today's guest, we have Brandon Copeland. He is
I,
the founder of, hey, he is the founder of Khepera Wellness, and he is a yoga instructor. Brandon, thank you for joining us today. Your story, your studio just is so amazing. It's so dope. So,
thank
first
you.
of all, you're
Thank you. Thank
welcome. It just gives me like all the energy
you. Yes.
when I see your videos.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so. I think it's some people you get two like responses. Like some people are like, "Yo, I want to learn how to do that. That looks cool." And some people are like, "I'm never doing yoga." Like that was great. So there's a middle ground. I'm happy that you found that middle ground.
Yes, no, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, so what does Khepera mean exactly?
Yes, Khepera means evolution. So it's a concept of evolution that was anthropomorphized or like created as like a deity kind of in Egyptian philosophy. You know, when you see in Egyptian philosophy, like you'll see like the head of Anubis or these different things like that. These are concepts, right? And so the idea or the concept of evolution was known as Khepera.
Mm-hmm.
And Khepera is just the process of going from this chaotic state to this state of pure kind of focused energy. And so in my mind, when creating Khepera Wellness and wanting it to reflect that in our society as Black people, I wanted to not only use a concept that was our own, but one that reflected the process of yoga effectively. And for me, that's what yoga was. It was me, coming into a space where I was in this chaotic, emotional, state, and was able to find this state of focus, in raising my son and building this company. So yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. So can you tell us about your journey as far as what inspired you to get into yoga?
My son, like I said, I was at school at Howard University in DC,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a sophomore. It was like 2010, and I had just switched my major. I was going from psychology to psychiatry, and was taking these science classes, and so that was a lot. And then I found out that my son was on the way. Like I was having my first son. And I was not ready. I was not prepared. I did not know what to do. I was, just very anxious and scared, and had this new workload that I wasn't really sure about, because psychiatry now means med school. So now my whole mind has shifted to this desire that I had, or that I kind of thought that I had. I wasn't really doing well in the classes and was struggling with it and trying to, make this meaning of life outside of, what was right in front of me. I was trying to do too much, and so in my son coming, it tipped the ship. Like I just was like, I dropped out of school. I didn't know what to do. I kind of just was like depressed, and was not really, because not even, it was a mixture of things. It was like I felt guilty, I felt like, well, I shouldn't have a child if I'm not ready. I felt just sad, because I kind of felt like I was continuing a pattern of like having a child out of wedlock. I felt all kinds of things. Like I was just really, and I was young and I was in school,
Yeah.
and I felt really bad. And then I went to a yoga class. I had gone to one before, I think on like an off date kind of thing. And I went to one as like a last kind of like resort. Like I don't know what to do, but I do know that I need to be well put together when this child gets here, right? I know my, like, yeah, I've seen it happen before. I know what it's like. Like I said, my mom had me when she was young, and so, but I've seen her be an excellent parent, So it's like I know this is what I have to do. I
Yeah.
just don't know what I'm ready to. And so I went to this yoga class, and what I was able to find in the class was two things: focus and ease. Like I could focus on what was happening, and it wasn't like other things that I resorted to, like maybe especially in school, partying, or like even running or things like that. I was able to see and feel that, yes, I'm about to have a child, and I am this old, and I have this much money, and I was able to focus on it, but I also was able to do so with ease and like this acceptance. and faith, really. I think that it restored a sense of faith. I grew up in a church.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had, you know, that I had gone through a tough place in high school, but was always a spiritual person. It was
Mm-hmm.
in a tough place. It was just asking for, like, I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make sense. This
Right.
doesn't explain to me. Like, this doesn't make sense. You know, and like literally, like I said, I grew up like from age 2, 3 in like pastors in a church. Like my grandfather was a pastor. So yeah, so it was just like I'd always had this spiritual understanding of like being in the flow and connectedness and God and all these other things, but had lost, I guess, kind of my way. And so when I went back to yoga in the middle of this very chaotic place, I was able to kind of find that understanding again. And that for me, which is funny because I didn't like much about, I don't say I didn't like, I didn't resonate a lot with the components of the experience. Like the teachers didn't look like me, or like the
Yeah.
music didn't sound like what I look like, or the class didn't kind of look like none of it really made sense, kind of, but
Yeah.
it all it's on my mat. And so I kind of kicked and screamed on my way to creating the studio because I was like, well, I don't want to look like these people. I don't want to dress like these people. I don't want to act like these people. I don't, you know, I think that the concepts that they're borrowing from are amazing, but like I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to conform.
Yeah.
And so yoga has just pushed me towards being an independent, free person. And so that's, you know, why I started it and teach consistently, because it's the thing that kind of feeds that desire to be alive, you know, to be free, to be able to make decisions and be, had to have focus and be at ease.
Yeah. So how would you describe yoga exactly? Because I feel like a lot of people really don't know what yoga is.
Yeah,
Like, oh, it's exercise.
so yoga is a system. Yoga
Mm-hmm.
is yoga in its very basic explanation. If we're talking about what physical yoga is, it's you standing in a certain position or moving through certain positions
Mm-hmm.
to bring attention to different areas of your body that you either overuse or maybe ignore,
Mm-hmm.
and to bring balance to those spaces. And the way that happens is you stand in a pose for a certain amount of time after your body gets warmed up through different exercises, and that pose requires you to use a few different things. Most poses are designed to make one half of your body do one thing, and your other half of your body do a complementary thing. So
Mm-hmm.
warrior one, right? That's a pose
Yeah.
where you're standing straight up, your arms are straight up. So your upper body, like you can see in my upper body, one arm's doing one thing. These are the
Yeah.
same. They're doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so left and right, I can kind of see, okay, if I'm reaching higher this way or if I'm reaching higher that way, I can feel it in my body, you know,
Mm-hmm.
certain patterns. And then my legs, one leg will be, it's like you're in a lunge and one leg is bent, one leg is straight. The straight leg is helping me not only push into the ground and push my left hip forward, but it's also giving me room to bend my front knee. And so you have all of these different logical things that you end up going through in these postures that serve a purpose beyond figuring out a shape. They keep your mind focused on yourself. And
Yeah.
so as they're going through this process of trying to figure out kind of how to, like, you know that game on Fox, like where they have that like sliding thing, you gotta like fit through the, you know, you gotta fit through the like hole in the wall or whatever. It's like in this pocket of like 4 or 5 breaths, you're given a pose. And so you kind of feel within that space where your body can be either misaligned or aligned very well, where it makes the energy in your body feel good. And
Yeah.
what that does for a period of time, over 30 minutes to an hour, even 15 minutes, it brings your attention back to your physical presence, and how if you withdraw some of the ignorance that you might be bringing into the body by overusing it in certain ways, or holding on to fear, or being averse to certain things, or wanting certain things, or thinking that your ego is, you know, more important than the physical experience of taking your next breath and enjoying life and all these mindfulness things that we focus on. The practice gives you that opportunity to physically feel the removal of that of those attachments or patterns in your body. And by the end of the class, you feel God. You know, you feel you feel, or at least you have an open channel to kind of feel that natural connectedness between yourself and a higher power.
Yeah.
And so I think the beauty for me in teaching this practice is that I can help guide people to this doorway. And they
Mm-hmm.
have to knock and walk through and figure out, you know, what it is. And so that for me has been a very wonderful and almost poetic answer to like the questions that I asked in church. Like it's like it doesn't the specific answers that I wanted were all pointing towards the same thing. And so it's like once you get people to that place, it's like
Yeah.
I don't know what you're gonna experience today, but experience it. It's wonderful and enjoy all of the things that it will teach. It won't always be happy. Some poses are sad. Some poses are painful. Some poses are, some poses you struggle with for years and you pull a muscle and you realize, wow, I really wanted that way too much.
Yeah.
There are lessons that are taught in yoga postures that are very quiet. And that's why I like it. It's not as loud, although I love the Baptist church. It's not as loud, You got to sit with it. You got to really sit and let it speak back to you. And I think that that's something that, if we're looking for God, the best thing to do is listen,
Yeah.
right? I mean, look at you. Who gave you the voice to ask the question? So it's like, why don't you just stop and listen? And your body is for me, the main tool that I use to do that, to listen.
Yeah. That's very powerful and interesting that you said that, because a couple of times after yoga, or even towards the end, I'd be wanting to cry.
Yeah,
And it's just inside, like I just feel connected. And I'm like, okay, should I go ahead and just let it out and cry in class?
I think that doubles down on why I created Khepera Wellness, just as the concept and really where we're headed in the next year as a studio space. Because you should cry, and
Yeah.
you should talk to somebody about it there, and we should all be crying and figuring these things out together. And when you can't do that, when I felt like in a space, really particularly in a white yoga studio spaces, I didn't feel like I could do that. I didn't feel like I could be a Black young man going through traumatic experiences and fear and all of these other things on top of, having a baby and all, like I just didn't know. I didn't feel any room to expand from what I understood.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, yeah, absolutely we should. I think that is for me, the one thing that I could not take away from the Black church really at all is in my seeking spirituality in other ways was the true community, your ability to cry, to lose it, to go through it, to find God, to commune with other people.
Yeah.
That's in my mind what got us across the ocean, let alone through the past 400 years to today. And
Right.
so that community is extremely important. And it's felt in spaces with others. I think with us, like especially as Black people, we are a community and have survived as such. And so, absolutely, I think that you taking the initiative to acknowledge your feeling is only gonna encourage the next person to do the same.
Yeah. Do you think that like now, or even after, you said that you didn't feel like you could actually express yourself that way, like being in a predominantly white yoga studio, do you feel like you can do that now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny now because I returned. I went through this period of finding myself
Yeah.
when I first started teaching because like I said, I never wanted to. It was like I don't want these students. I don't want to teach white girls yoga. Like that's not what I want to do. And it hadn't occurred to me, well, why don't you just teach what you want to teach? And so through that process, in wanting to understand more about what yoga was, and in
Mm-hmm.
loving the expression of it as an instructor and pulling the things out of people that I was able to pull out of them and
Yeah.
showing them the way, I loved it. So it was like, I couldn't stop, like I
Yeah.
would resist, but it would be like, I can't, like I'm not doing real work. Like I'm working, like I got a job at Apple. I was like, okay, well, I think I
Yeah.
work at Apple retail. I like Apple products. Let me figure out what I could do. It was like, I was doing handstands on the thing, like, like on the tables and stuff and like, teaching other people and like so I immediately ended up leaving there to teach. But in that time, like before then, I was teaching at studios or I was avoiding teaching at studios. I was just going through this conflicting like fringe association with the practice. Like what does it mean to be what I wanted to be? And I had never thought of entrepreneurship. And so what I ended up doing was saying, okay, well, I know this is what I want to do, so let me just do it. I'm gonna go all in. I signed up at a bunch of studios, started teaching, and just started to observe, because I knew at one point I wouldn't want to I don't want to work for somebody forever, because it
Yeah.
wouldn't work. I worked at the #1 retail place in the country for a year, and in the world, and I just don't like hierarchy like that. It's not my
Yeah.
thing. But
Yeah.
I was good at it, and I got the job, which is said something. So yeah, so I sat with it and just kind of realized what I liked in each of these spaces and what was necessary to do the yoga, and decided to teach what I wanted to teach. And so I wanted to, and struggle with that. So I was like, well, I need a power class. It needs to be open for everybody. And I was like, well, like, no, just teach yourself, man. Like, because I went through a period of, like, where I was like, I couldn't settle on why I wanted to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Yoga is always about being inclusive and blah, 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 blah. And that's wonderful and great. And yes, we are all human beings, but like, who I wanted to affect were people that I did not see in the class that looked like me. It was
Yeah.
Black people.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, being able to even just stand up as a Black man, who this is what I do, and say that we are a Black yoga studio that teaches Black people how to do these same things that it's in every other place. For me, like, that became, it's not even a job. It's like, well, that's what I have to do. Like, it's like,
Right.
there's no more thing, there's nothing to worry about anymore. Like, there's, of course, it's difficult and figuring out a business and doing all these things, but that's kind of what's driven me, is finding that like small truth. And so I think I feel comfortable in those spaces now because I was able to go out and find that truth. I was
Yeah.
able to go into them, go out and then create my own space. Say, no, this is what I need. This is what we need. See that reflected. Focus on that solely for like 2-3 years, and then go back. And now I look at the spaces that I thought I couldn't teach in, and I teach at a white studio now. Flow Yoga is owned by Deborah Misha Love. Great studio. And the only reason I teach there is because I used to think that I would never be able to. I used to think that the teachers that came through were just like these monumental figures that were untouchable. And I think that while they're able to be respected, I think that there's something to be said about being reflective of your own power and your own understanding and where you've come to, as just as a responsibility to be an inspiration for people who will be greater than you in the future.
Right.
And so I have gone back and I do teach at a white studio now, and it's funny because it's hilarious almost. It's because I teach my class, and so it's like you'll have like Future, and like it's a room of like 20 white people, white girls, like this is their space, but I teach in it because I respect how it's run. I
Yeah.
respect there is inclusiveness. I see more Black people in my classes, honestly, than a lot of other ones, but it's a great yoga studio, just
Yeah.
on its face as what yoga is. It's a
Yeah.
great space. It's one of my favorite places to practice in DC. But I do feel comfortable being myself there because I went out and figured out what that was and
Right.
expressed that. And the only reason I did that was for the same reason that, I felt uncomfortable while I was there. The yoga practice and figuring out who I was and conforming to things and making decisions and going through that tough process.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel very comfortable in my skin now, period. It wasn't even skin before, skin and body and,
Right.
everything. Like, it's just like you're a man in a yoga
Everything.
class. Like and look at my hands. I'm a Black man in a white yoga class trying to give adjustments. I was like, nah, I'm not doing this. Y'all are good. I'm not about to get caught up. Y'all not about to get trying to no. I've heard of lies. I've heard, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it was that kind. It was very visceral, kind of like, I want to do this, but I just don't feel confident or comfortable. Because I don't, like, I don't know. I don't even, still won't really get into your space unless I know you. But
Yeah.
like, if I can't even think to do that, then am I really doing yoga, or am I just talking to people for an hour?
Right.
And so having to find that confidence in myself took time, and it took practice.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, you can apply that to anything in your life, like whatever it is, being comfortable, knowing who you are so you can go out and serve and be the person that you're meant to be in this world.
Be
Like that
open.
right there makes me want to cry.
Yeah, let it out. Let it out.
It's for everybody,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
experience where you're like, okay, should I do this? Should I not? I don't feel comfortable.
It's
You
for
gotta get
everybody. You said it. It's for everybody. That's the thing, and it's like we're all on the path.
yeah.
Everybody's walking. So it's like, I don't really, you could be up there, you're walking, you're here, you're breathing, you're taking a breath in and out. It's happening right now. And when it's not anymore. So like, what are you worried? Like, it's like the realization, and all of these realizations and things that I'm coming from and coming to, for me, is, like I said, it's just time and practice. And
Yeah.
that's why I like yoga so much, because I don't have to look at one like penultimate figure that's like the connection between me and the Lord. I think that, or what you learn though, is because you can't separate their philosophical system of like, having gods and goddesses and all of these hundreds of Hindu gods that people in that Hindu yogis do worship, that a lot of these postures and ideas are based around. What you find is that those are representations, like in a lot of ways, and the way that the poses are, it's like a symbol. It's like it's a representation of this thing that you can identify with. And so I think that when you give people the opportunity to feel that type of connection literally in their own bodies, then not to say that they don't have to follow anybody or believe in anybody, or like I said, believe in Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha, but you understand your relevance to those deities, to those major people that you should be looking up to and trying to emulate and trying to embody, but you have to do that in your own body. You have to feel that. You have to respect that this is your vessel with which you're going forth. And so if you don't feel it and live it, then like what's the point? It's like, what's the point? The Bible like is written already. So it's like, are you living it or are you reading it? Like, what do you do?
Right. There's a
And so
difference.
and I think that yoga for me is so great, because now I see the beauty, and I do see the beauty and diversity and inclusion, but you don't see it as those things. It's not diversity or inclusion. It's one. It just is. It's just one. Like, it's just, everything's beautiful because it's all here and it's all one thing, and it's swirling, and there's different derivatives of things that you can see that all reflect back to the kind of the fact that you're here and it's happening. Beautiful. And so like that for me was something that I had first felt in church, and then now, try to help other people feel in yoga.
Yeah. And do you feel like the more that you become open is when others also start to open up to you? So, before you had this idea like, oh my God, I'm not going to fit into this space. And
Yes.
now you're like, I'm bringing my whole self to this space, and people are in my class and I can just be myself. Like, and everything is well.
Absolutely.
Which
I think
it's so interesting, right?
yeah, it's like it's faith. I think for me, like it's because it's funny, when I first learned about faith, I was like, you want me to just believe to believe? I was just like, you sound like you're trying to sell me a beach property in Montana. Like, that's not, like, I don't, like, logically it just didn't make sense. But that's because I was young, and logic for young people does not make sense because you don't know anything. And so I think it took some experience for me to get to the space where that's all that I could do. Like, that was all that was left. But literally bring a faith. And snaps, then that is the reality. It's just, or even going past that, like where I had faith that I wasn't about to get nobody pregnant, and then boom, here we are. Welcome. And so it's like,
Oh my God.
and having to continue, trust me, and having to continue that idea in the reality of, no, you're having a child. There's so many things with children that you have to have faith on, that you're connecting with them, that they're going to be healthy, that they're going to be safe, that they're not going to shove a crayon up their nose and like give themselves brain damage. Like, you always they are their own humans, And so in gaining that muscle and recognizing really what faith was, you realize that is the gas of life. Like, that's what makes you get up in the morning, makes you, is this subtle thing that you almost kind of lean on without even thinking about it. Like, like even when we pray, you have faith that this prayer's gonna get answered. You know what I'm saying? Like, and everybody, if somebody walks up to you right now and is trying to push you off a brick, you just start praying. I don't care who you are. I don't care. You're going to try to, to will things to happen. And the ability to have that requires vulnerability. It requires introspection. It requires things that I think they're hard to foster in spaces where they've been taken away. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um,
What is your definition of wellness? I would love to know.
wellness. it's it's funny because like words like end up like they like mean and then they go somewhere. Like wellness has been used to mean a lot of things, but for me, Khepera wellness is that idea of focus and peace. Your
Mhm.
ability to be at peace, your
Yeah.
ability to think clearly enough to make the decisions that you need to make that are going to better your life, to be creative, um, to just be clear, to be balanced, to be at this space of truth, right,
Yeah.
and ease.
Yeah. I love that.
Mhm.
So you have all of these different classes, right? You're basically like a moving studio. So you go to like these different locations around DC, put on
Yes,
these dope classes.
yes.
Can
We
you tell
try.
us
Yes, thank
about some of
you.
your classes? Because you have different types of yoga. You have trap yoga.
Step yoga,
You
bam,
have
bam, bam.
yoga with CBD.
Yes, we do.
Can you talk about all of this? The different types of yoga classes you offer?
Yes, and so we offer a multitude of classes. We have trap yoga. We have the CBD soul flow yoga, which is a newer style that I'm starting now, with more soul music or soul. Have you heard of selection? It's like newer kind of soul music,
Huh.
uh,
Oh,
older soul music.
okay.
We have R&B and flow, R&B, like slow flow. We used to call it restorative, but we're changing that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have Black Girl Magic. We have a few different types of classes. We had a house class for a little while, Powerhouse. And for me, the classes are just representative of that Black taste on a traditional practice. And so the classes are taught, the way that they would be taught in other spaces. But we like to use music and then instructors and then the community to make it a Black yoga class and to make it something that's a unique experience. The CBD class in particular is one that I'm very excited about teaching on Sundays, because I've really at this point refined what I want my yoga experience and offering to be,
Mm-hmm.
um, and have this canvas and to kind of teach people. And so this class is CBD. CBD, if you're not aware, is like the muscle relaxing component of marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
So THC is what like makes people high and talk about philosophy. And while that's like awesome and great, and something I do have cipher talks on my IGTV if you want to check those out on my YouTube, where I do use THC to expand my mind, talk about things I can't see. But the CBD brings your body physically. It's like, imagine going into your muscles and taking off a layer of tension or stress, and just seeing what that felt like. Like if I could just go and say, "Foop," and just take it. That's what CBD does. What it does is it's a protein and it activates. I don't want to say. I guess it's neurotransmitters and glands in your body basically that allow for areas of the body that are overly tense to relax. You'll notice that this has effects with people with seizures, people that have seizures, or different debilitating diseases that cause their body to react in certain ways that isn't helpful. And so CBD, when taken as a wellness product, which in wellness also meaning that you're not starting from a space where you are sick necessarily or ill. I guess we all have some sort of like, we're not all perfect, so you have some sort of like degraded experience in your body, be it a sore stomach or sick stomach or like back pain or whatever. But if you're not if you're not coming into yoga to heal from something, and you're kind of going into it to continue a journey of healing. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people take yoga because they like had a brain injury and they have to relearn how to walk, and so now they're using it as a therapy method. There you go.
Yeah.
And so the wellness practice with CBD specifically, when you take it and you feel normal, you feel a release of anxiety. It becomes much more of like a psychological medicine, if you will, than a physical one. And so when you attach that to a yoga class and the experience that I'm able to give people with these poses and with the discussion and with the breathing exercises and the music, you're able to create this Black wellness experience where it's like, for me, it's almost, it's weird. And then say like, if you do things well, they become art. but it's almost like for me, it's a way for me to express Blackness and the therapy, the joy, really, the therapeutic joy that it means to be creatively and expressively Black, right? And to do that with focus and ease and peace, and to, you know, just kind of reflect moment. It's perfect. It's Sunday afternoon. It's like I'm trying to bring you to my house.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like it's like when I was a kid, like you know, those Sunday afternoons, like, and I think, you know, just trying to take people to that place where you're we're not, and it's not, that's why I like that it's not THC, like we're not giggling, like it's not, you know what I'm saying?
You feel good and you feel relaxed.
Feel good. It's joy. I want you to feel joyful going into the week. I want you, and so there's small group classes, only like 10 spots in each class. Because I realized, like, why am I striving to get like 40 people in these classes and like stressing out when yoga really is between one person and the next person, you know, like it's between, like, this is happening now, you know. And so it's just, I just feel very happy about this particular class. But Trap Yoga in itself is our marketing arm. It's our huge, you know, everybody in the world is like, Trap Yoga, like what? And so it is, it's a combination of trap music and power yoga. Power yoga is a style of yoga that has you moving quickly through postures, using what's called sun salutations to start, and then getting you into some more standing poses that are just going to be more strength-based. And then from there, once your body's warm and open, we stretch you out and kind of get you to more flexibility and more balance, focused postures in the middle, and then flexibility and things towards the end, just so that you can get your body into this state of not holding on to attachments that you may have, and let yourself relax and have that communion with that higher power, really. And I think that we like to think of this like you're sending prayers out to like a beacon, like, you know, like it's like this will happen. It's like no, like that's what they say. Listen, like, so when you get into our final pose, and I'd like to take about 5 to 7 minutes in classes if I can. To put you in this pose called corpse pose, Shavasana, where you lay down at the end of class and you're flat on your back. You've done all of these, like you sweated, you've gone through this stuff, you've gone through doubt, you've gone through fear, you've gone through like joy, you've gone through all of these different emotions, like you said, and you lay down flat on your back and you just sit and listen. And that is why we practice yoga ultimately, for like I said, focus and ease. Focus and ease doing what? Being here, breathing, meditating, ultimately practicing breathing, which is what meditating kind of is. But breathe, like existing your life, living. And so you get that 7-minute period to lay down flat on your back after working very hard, because trap for me is the Black experience. You're gonna work your ass off. You're gonna work twice as hard, and then you're gonna be good, but you're not good enough to do it again. You're going to refine yourself in a way that we know how to do. You know, we know how to work twice as hard as the next person, and trap, hustle, how to go out of the bando and hustle your way up from $5 to $5 million. You know what I'm saying? That concept in itself, though rooted in awful, you know, drugs and things like that, it speaks to a spirit. It speaks to a kind of a resilience, I think, that that is a currency that we don't necessarily value in ways because it's redirected. And so trap yoga for me is that expression. It's the expression of the street in a yoga class where I was when I was an angry young Black man trying to figure out who I was and do yoga. That's, you know, at my 25th birthday, that's what I taught, you know. And so now I'm excited to kind of get into this more 30s sophisticated, you know, soul flow yoga. And so that is I guess the authenticity that I like to bring to the classes, is trying to pair, you know, Black modalities of wellness, music, or, you know, whatever, with other wellness modalities like yoga, CBD, and, you know, that meditation.
And finding your breath is so important. Like, I remember I didn't realize I was so like just this tense person. And I remember driving one day and I'm like, why am I holding my breath?
Yep.
Which is crazy to me.
You're like, because you know why, it's you know what's funny, and I think this is what holds a lot of most of us, all of us back, is because when you take a deep breath in and a
Mm-hmm.
deep breath out, you can't think. Like it's a physical process. You
Mm.
feel, but it takes you. You're just like you're feeling it, and you're feeling it, and then you know what you really can't think. You can feel enough to have maybe a thought or something in there where you're like maybe the one word like joy or tight or whatever. But in that space where you hold in between the breath, that's where you really focus in. And so when you're thinking a lot, it's not based off of having experienced something. Like for me, it's what they say pranayama is, or like breathing, right? Is the
Mm-hmm.
prana is energy, and yama is like to stretch. And so
Mm-hmm.
as you breathe in, you're bringing energy into your body, and then you're bringing energy out of your body. And the experience of doing that is an experience. It's happening. It's like watching a TV show. Like, you know, you look up and you watch 4 hours or something. You're like, I didn't think of anything. Like, how do it's like your feet, your body's just so distracted. Your mind is so
Yeah.
distracted that the thoughts don't have time. So you breathe in, and then you hold. And in that space, when you hold with all of that in there, your mind has to double down and think on what it's feeling in the body. And so it's almost like the thought doesn't have space, right?
Yeah.
It's you're not breathing in, but the thought is already the thinker is focused on what's happening in your body. I'm full of air, I'm alive, I'm here, you start to analyze. This is what feels like that. You become a computer again almost.
Yeah.
Right? You breathe out. When we get anxious, or when we get scared, or when we get depressed, or when we're attacked, we shrink, we close our lungs off. Almost like we try to hibernate or go towards death or suicide. You
Yeah.
start to think. So
Oh.
you start to breathe shallow in the top of and you're just thinking, and like you can see a lot of things that you're comfortable there, and you're analyzing outside, worried or or inside from the outside. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not about how do I feel, it's what am I? It's your
Yeah.
ego. What do I represent? What does my money mean? What does my time mean? How have I spent these things? And so you look from the outside back in, and now you really can't breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And now you don't even want to know what your body, you don't even want to know that you can't breathe, because you don't even want to look at yourself, because you're so worried about yourself that you're feeling it's this cycle. And
Yeah.
that's your ego. That's the ignorance that we were talking about earlier. You're ignorant. I am this, like, sure, for now, but then
Yeah.
I cut your leg off, now you're that.
Yeah.
Or you get hit by a bus, now you're that. Like, so what does it matter? Were you that, or were you this that's right here, right now?
Well, I love that you offer different types of yoga, because a lot of people think it's just this one yoga. Like for me, when I was diagnosed with cancer, restorative yoga worked really well for me,
Mm-hmm.
because I was tired, like when I was going through chemo, I'm trying to build my body back up.
Yep.
I looked forward to that class every time I went. It was amazing. Now, I wish that some of the classes had R&B music too.
You're right. Hey, look,
It was
we're
still
coming.
awesome.
We're coming. Look, we're coming. I'm coming. I'm working on it very hard. So I want places all over the country.
Yeah.
I want us to have places to be. Yeah. So continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I was just saying that it's for everyone out there. Like there's different types of yoga for you. It's just not this one super intense. If that's not what you need at that moment, you don't have to choose that. You can choose something else,
Right.
which is amazing.
Yes. Yep. And I think for me, discovering that was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yoga was an outlet for me for a lot. Like I was able to burn off a lot of energy that I still have, as you can tell,
Mhm.
but I was able to just focus it back into myself in a way that was healthy. But I also was able to recognize the imbalance in that and find other practices that for me, like y'all think it's funny as people tell me like, oh, like your practice is so amazing, like it's great, like I like it, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Wait till you see me in a yin yoga class. I am the biggest baby.
Yoga.
Yeah, I am. I look. I respect those women and those people so much. Look, I can't. You see, I can't even like think because my struggles are my struggles,
Yeah.
and so while Instagram, it looks cool to do a handstand. Everybody thinks you're like enlightened. Like, no, like it's hard to sit into a pose for 4 minutes and just breathe and let all your whole little emotions just running off. You just crying. I can't. And so it's like there. So for me, I think it's very important, and I think that's why it's important for me as with Khepera to be reflective of there's different ways of offering it. Because like, what is yoga, right? I just gave you a bunch of things that aren't actually a thing. It's me talking to you at its very basic, right? And so the way that I tell you to do different things, or the instruction that I give you to get you to this higher conversation, right, is what yoga is. And so a different teacher is going to teach a different way. Like you can learn, like there needs to be representation there. There needs to be a representation of styles. So it's not all about doing yoga postures. The majority, honestly, of yoga is not about the postures. The postures are just what we can relate to most visually to reflect what the spiritual process is. It puts you in the pot. I can say, fold. I can take your body, fold it, and you feel it. And you're like, and over time, you'll get it. Right. So that's the most physical thing that we have for you. Right. I can't sell you like a yoga drink and you'll get it, but I can lead you to this concept through multiple avenues that are a lot more based on your interaction with your breath and yourself, that are a lot less easy to see. And so the yoga practice itself, when you see it marketed to you, understand that that's what's happening. Even if it's old Indian dudes standing on some 12-year-old kid's back, that's marketing. Right? It's not what you have to do in order to get it. And they knew that, and we know that. But in order to get you to stop and say, what's that? And to even consider it, I put my hands on my ankles and bend over backwards and do all kinds of stuff. And also to experience that level of control and submission within myself, that faith. And so like I think that it's just it's like a beautiful thing. Like it's wonderful. And so yes, there's many variations. If what I do is not for you, don't do it, please. It won't serve you. Or try it and figure out all the reasons you don't want to do it and let it serve you like that, right? It's you're just constant. It's just do it.
Lastly, what is a mantra?
Yes, a
And
mantra.
what is your favorite?
Yes. I love. Okay, cool. A mantra is a phrase, basically. It's a phrase. It's something that you say over and over again that helps you focus your mind on that particular thing. Mantras for me are like they're ways to help yourself focus and ways to replace whatever words that might be in your head or things that you might be thinking. Replace it with that phrase or that saying or that idea. A lot like what we've done with hip hop or Negro spirituals or old tales, that you end up learning from your grandma and things like all those things in my mind count as mantras. They're things that you say over and over and over again that remind you of the rabbit in the hare and all these different things. Mantras are specifically those phrases and words because there are a lot of, you look at Hinduism and yoga and how they took the spirituality and all of these different things and put them into the practice of what yoga is. They have a bunch of stories and they use a lot of the modalities that we use to get messages across. Even if you look at like what do they say, old like African or like slave tales of like Brer Rabbit or Anansi or things like these are concepts that are put into certain forms, and you're able to think of those things. And so a mantra just gets your mind back to that idea. The mantra that I'm focusing on literally right now is focus and ease. Focus and ease. Focus. That's all that we're here to do is focus and ease. Focus and ease.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Brandon, and giving us the scoop on what you do and why you do it, and how you're helping us all to, heal and be better versions of ourselves. Yeah.
And thank you, honestly, for doing this. One, for taking the time and doing this and recognizing people like myself. I appreciate it a lot. And then thank you for going through because I know that you're on this journey yourself and getting all these interviews. I'm sure you're finding all kinds of stuff and going through this process of doing all this stuff. So I'm just thankful for you. And I'm hopeful that we can do more stuff like this in the future.
Yes. And when I'm in DC, I will be there. I will be at Khepera Wellness.
Yeah, classes on me. Classes on me. Classes on me. Yep. It's lit. I just figured out matcha was good. Matcha. If you haven't tried that, that's my wellness tip of the day. Get some matcha. It's good.
Yes.
Mhm.
Perfect. Well, thank you all again for joining us today, Thrive Beyond Cancer Summit, and we will see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.